Rejection does not destroy you, it awakens you. It pulls you out of the fantasy of believing that everyone should accept you and forces you to see yourself without adornments, without masks, without excuses. Being ignored or rejected is not a defeat, it's a trial by fire. It's life telling you, now we'll see what you're made of. Because true power does not appear when everything goes well, but when you learn to stand up when the door is slammed in your face. Every time someone ignores you, you have two options: sink into neediness or rise with character. Rejection is not overcome by seeking attention. It is mastered by learning not to need it. And that mastery does not come from coldness, but from control, from looking at the void without running away, from keeping calm when the ego screams for recognition. This is not a video to feel sorry for yourself. It's to remind you that real power begins when you no longer expect anything from anyone, when your silence speaks louder than any explanation, when your absence is more unsettling than your presence. This is not about pretending it doesn't hurt. It's about understanding that pain can be your best teacher if you transform it. Stay until the end, because you're going to learn to use rejection as fuel. You're going to stop seeking approval and start building respect, starting with your own. When to transform rejection into strength, they say that fire destroys, but it also purifies. And rejection deep down works the same way. It burns your illusions, melts your ego, and exposes who you really are. It hurts, yes, but it also forges. Because only those who go through the fire of rejection without giving up discover what they're made of. The problem is that most people run away when they feel that heat. They turn off, they break, they seek approval to avoid facing the void, and that's where they lose their power. Transforming rejection into strength is not a pretty phrase. It's a mental discipline. It's understanding that when someone rejects you, they're not defining your worth, they're revealing theirs. It's learning not to react from the wound, but from consciousness. Rejection doesn't tell you that you're not enough. It tells you that you're looking in the wrong place. When you understand this, you stop begging for attention and start rebuilding from within. Every time someone ignores you, you have an opportunity to grow. If it hurts, don't deny it, observe it. Feel that discomfort and turn it into drive. Channel that energy quietly without drama, because while others lament, you can be training. Rejection becomes your emotional gym. Every closed door trains your patience. Every silence strengthens your self-control. Every loss teaches you to let go. If you use it well, rejection doesn't turn you off, it shapes you. Many become obsessed with proving to the other what they lost. They lose focus trying to be seen, to be validated, to have the last word. But that's weakness disguised as pride. The real power is to keep silent, observe, and work on yourself. Let your growth be the answer. Let your improvement be the revenge. Because those who truly overcome don't need anyone to recognize them. Respect comes alone when the noise is turned off and the transformation speaks for itself. If you were rejected today, thank life. Every no can propel you more than 100 compliments if you know how to listen to it with maturity. It shows you your limits, forces you to evolve, pushes you to discover skills you didn't know you had. Everything depends on your response. You can cry for what you lost or build with what's left. And at that exact moment, where you choose to stand, is where you become strong. Rejection doesn't destroy you, it polishes you. It turns you into someone more conscious, more selective, more firm. You learn not to beg for presence, not to justify your worth, not to waste energy where there is no reciprocity. You understand that respect is not demanded, it's projected. And when you reach that point, something changes in you. You no longer chase anything, you attract. You no longer define yourself by who accepts you, but by what you choose to accept. This is how rejection stops being your enemy and becomes your teacher. Because every time someone closes a door on you, life is training you to build your own with more strength, more clarity, and more purpose. 2. Let silence speak for you. Silence carries a weight that many underestimate. It's like the invisible edge of a sword. It can't be seen, but it cuts deeper than any word. Whoever masters silence doesn't use it to run away, but to observe, analyze, and wait for the right moment. In a world where everyone speaks without thinking, silence becomes power. Because while others wear themselves out trying to explain their worth, you learn to demonstrate it without uttering a single word. Letting silence speak for you is not passivity, it's strategy. It means understanding that not every provocation deserves a response, and not every explanation is worth the energy. The need to justify yourself comes from ego, not wisdom. When someone rejects or ignores you, speaking more only weakens you. Whoever learns to remain silent after rejection demonstrates emotional mastery, not because they lack words, but because they have understood that noise changes nothing. Silence is uncomfortable because it reflects control. It sends a clear message: I don't need to convince you. And that, in a society addicted to validation, is magnetic. Respect comes when you don't demand it, when your calm disarms others' expectations. Silence is not emptiness, it's focus. It gives you time to observe who you are without the distortion of noise. When you don't react, you discover patterns. You realize that often the impulse to speak comes from the fear of losing control. But silence teaches you the opposite, that control is not in dominating the conversation, but in dominating yourself. Every time you choose to be silent when you could shout, you're training your inner strength. There are people who confuse silence with weakness until they realize they can't manipulate someone who doesn't respond. There, its true power is revealed. Silence breaks mental games, dismantles manipulations, extinguishes unnecessary conflicts. You don't need to explain your worth to someone who doesn't see it. You don't need to defend your peace in front of someone who doesn't understand it. Silence selects for you who is worth keeping close. After a rejection, silence is your best ally. Speaking too much only shows neediness, while silence projects power. Don't demean yourself by explaining what should already be evident. Don't chase after someone who doesn't listen. Don't shout where there's emotional deafness. Save your energy to build yourself, not to convince anyone. Whoever withdraws in silence doesn't surrender, they rise. Not because they believe themselves superior, but because they understand that there are battles that don't deserve their presence. Letting silence speak for you is an art form. It's the sign that you're no longer seeking to win an argument, but to maintain your balance. That you're no longer driven by the desire to be understood, but by the decision to be at peace. 3. Control your emotional energy. The mind is like a field on fire. If you don't learn to control it, the fire spreads, destroys, and consumes everything it finds. But if you know how to direct it, it can light your way. Rejection, anger, and frustration are sparks that appear when someone touches your pride. And if you don't know how to handle them, you become a slave to your own reactions. Controlling emotional energy doesn't mean turning off what you feel, but using it to your advantage. It's the art of not letting your emotions drive your life when you're hurt. Every time you're rejected, something inside you reacts. The heart beats faster, the mind seeks answers, the body wants to act. It's normal but not smart, because the impulse is born from pain, not reason. And if you let yourself be guided by the wound, you end up doing exactly what the other expects, losing control. True strength lies in stopping, breathing, and observing what's happening inside you without letting it drag you along. When you achieve that, you regain the power you had given away. Controlling your emotional energy is knowing when to speak and when to be silent, when to move forward and when to retreat, when to fight and when to let go. It's not about being cold but conscious. Emotion is not the enemy, impulsive reaction is. Strong people are not those who don't feel. They are those who feel deeply but don't let themselves be dominated by what they feel. They learn to turn anger into productive action, pain into focus, and disappointment into wisdom. Most explode, scream, or seek attention after being rejected, as if the noise eased the wound. But true relief comes when you understand that you don't need to prove anything. Controlling your emotional energy allows you to observe the situation without losing your center. You realize that rejection is not a tragedy, but an opportunity to practice your inner mastery. If you manage to stay calm when everything in you wants to explode, you gain respect, even from those who tried to break you. Controlling your emotions doesn't mean suppressing them, but channeling them intelligently. Anger can drive you to excel, pain can make you wiser, fear can teach you prudence. Everything depends on how you decide to use that energy. Don't waste your emotions on people or situations that aren't worth your peace. Direct that force towards something that builds you. If you achieve that, rejection stops hurting and starts propelling you. The power is not in reacting, but in choosing your response. And when you learn to do that, no one can manipulate you. Controlling your emotional energy is mastering the invisible game of life. Because whoever controls their emotions controls their destiny. There is no greater sign of maturity than keeping calm when everything inside you wants to scream. That's the exact point where pain turns into power. Or release with serenity. Clinging is like holding a burning rope. The tighter you hold, the more it hurts. But letting go is not surrendering, it's choosing your peace over pain. Releasing with serenity is understanding that not everything lost is a loss. Sometimes it's life eliminating what no longer vibes with you, what was stagnating you without you noticing. Rejection, in that sense, doesn't take away anything essential. It frees you from what was not aligned with your growth. Letting go is not forgetting abruptly, nor pretending it didn't hurt. It's observing the past without letting it define you. It's looking at what was with gratitude, not with resentment. Most people get stuck trying to understand why something ended, as if finding a reason could change the outcome. But serenity doesn't come from having answers, but from accepting that sometimes there are none. Letting go is trusting that what leaves makes room for something better. Rejection hurts because it teaches us detachment forcefully. It takes away the illusion of control and forces you to trust in yourself. But when you see it from a calm perspective, you understand that the real power lies in not resisting. Releasing with serenity is not coldness, it's maturity. It means not fighting against the inevitable, not getting hooked on what doesn't want to stay. It's not about forgetting who rejected you, but thanking what it showed you. Every loss has a hidden lesson, and only the one who lets go can see it. Clinging to the past is like trying to revive something that no longer breathes. It's hard to accept, but letting go is the only way to recover the energy you lost. When you keep thinking about what could have been, you stop seeing what can be. Detachment gives you clarity. It teaches you that true freedom comes when you don't depend on the outcome. You don't need anything to be eternal to value it. What made sense at its time fulfilled its purpose. Letting go is also a form of respect towards yourself. It's telling yourself, I'm not going to keep holding on to what drains me. It's allowing life to follow its course without trying to control every ending. Because endings are not always punishments, often they are disguised beginnings. When you choose to let go without resentment, the heart stops weighing. You start to see lightly what before seemed unfair to you. You understand that nothing is lost. Everything is transformed. Serenity is not achieved overnight. It's trained. It's built every time you decide not to respond with resentment, every time you prefer to let go rather than insist. When you manage to do it, you discover that nothing external has power over you. Rejection no longer hurts you, it only redirects you. Releasing with serenity is not an act of weakness, it's a declaration of strength. It's looking at the past, smiling and saying, "Thank you for teaching me what I no longer need to hold." 5. Preserve your mystery. The people who attract the most are not those who tell everything, but those who know how to keep silent at the right time. Mystery has a power that needs no explanations. It's like a flame behind a slightly open door. It's not fully visible, but it's felt. Whoever preserves their mystery projects something that cannot be imitated, a mix of calm, confidence, and depth. In a world where everyone seeks attention, being reserved becomes a form of elegance and personal mastery. Preserving your mystery does not mean being distant or inaccessible, but selective. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, emotions, or plans. Showing too much weakens you because you give your energy to those who do not know how to value it. Mystery protects your essence and keeps your power in your hands. It's the difference between those who live seeking to be understood and those who only focus on understanding themselves. When you learn to keep silent about your life, your movements begin to speak louder than your words. Rejection often comes from overexposure. The more you give, the easier it is for you to be underestimated. But when you learn to reserve yourself, to not explain every step, you awaken respect. People are curious about what they do not understand and end up valuing what they cannot decipher. Your mystery is a reminder that not everything should be revealed, that there is power in discretion. Intrigue is not manipulation, it's balance. It's knowing that your energy is not within everyone's reach. Mystery also has to do with emotional control. Not reacting to provocation, not explaining why you walked away, not justifying your silence. When you achieve this, you stop being predictable, and those who cannot be read cannot be controlled. Serenity combined with mystery creates a magnetic presence, not because you seek to impress, but because you show that you know how to stay centered even when the environment seeks to break you. Every time you talk too much, you leave parts of you in the hands of others. Every time you explain what they don't need to know, you lose strength. Learn to move without announcing every step. Let your actions speak. Let your progress answer the questions you're never going to answer. It's not about hiding, but about taking care of what you build. The private is not secret, it's sacred. And when you treat your life with respect, the world begins to do so too. Mystery is not faked, it's cultivated. It comes from internal security, from the tranquility of not needing approval. When you no longer care about being seen, you become impossible to ignore. Your presence gains weight, your silence becomes eloquent, and your boundaries are respected on their own. Preserving your mystery is a reminder that you don't have to show everything to be powerful. What you keep in reserve sustains your magnetism. Because in the end, whoever masters the art of silencing what others shout will always have the advantage. 6. Despise with intelligence. Intelligent contempt does not come from pride, but from clarity. It's like when a snake sheds its skin. It doesn't do it out of hatred. It does it because it no longer serves it. Learning to despise intelligently is knowing how to withdraw your attention without resentment, to take power away from what once dominated you. Because true contempt is not shouted, it is demonstrated with indifference. It is the art of looking at something that once hurt you and feeling that it no longer has any control over you. Despising intelligently is not about revenge, but about balance. It means understanding that not all battles deserve your presence, that there are offenses that disintegrate on their own when you do not feed them with your reaction. It is looking at the provocation and responding calmly, not because you cannot defend yourself, but because you no longer need to. Strong people do not respond to everything. They carefully select where they put their energy. That is power. When someone rejects you, your first reaction is usually to try to prove that they were wrong. But that need chains you. Whoever tries to prove their worth in the face of others' contempt still depends on it. Intelligent contempt is letting go without noise, disappearing with elegance. It is letting the other person feel the void of your absence. It is turning your silence into a mirror where their own insignificance is reflected. Because when someone notices that they cannot affect you, they lose their influence over you. The mistake of many is to confuse contempt with hatred. Hatred remains tied to the past. Intelligent contempt transcends it. You don't hold a grudge, you simply stop looking back. The one who hates wears out. The one who despises calmly frees himself. The energy you used to argue or insist now becomes strength to move forward. You don't need to slam doors, just stop touching. The message is clear. You're not here to beg for attention, you're here to create your path. Intelligent contempt also applies to your thoughts. Don't feed ideas that weaken you. When you are rejected, your mind tends to repeat stories that make you feel small. Despise them with the same firmness with which you distance yourself from a person who does not value you. Don't argue with your insecurities. Ignore them. Don't try to convince those who don't listen. Withdraw your voice. Don't seek understanding where there is only ego. The real power is in not needing to close cycles, but in continuing to walk. Intelligent contempt is an act of self-love. It doesn't punish, it sets boundaries. It doesn't hurt, it puts distance. It doesn't seek revenge, it seeks peace. It's knowing that your energy is too valuable to waste on useless explanations. When you learn to do it, your presence becomes stronger. The world begins to notice that you're not available for drama, that your attention is not one with noise. And that disconcerts, because in a world of impulsive reactions, the silence of those who no longer seek approval becomes the most powerful gesture of all. 7. Learn not to need. Emotional dependence is like walking with a chain tied to your ankle. You can move forward, but you always drag a weight that slows you down. Learning not to need is not becoming cold. It's freeing yourself from that invisible chain that makes you believe that without someone or something you are not complete. Need makes you predictable, weak and vulnerable to the control of others. On the other hand, emotional independence gives you power over yourself. Not needing does not mean living in isolation, but knowing that your well-being does not depend on the external. It is understanding that no one comes to save you, that peace is not begged for, and that the most solid love is the one you build towards yourself. When you achieve this, relationships stop being a refuge and become a choice. You are not with someone because you need them, but because you value them. That difference changes everything. People who do not learn to be alone end up settling for less out of fear of emptiness. But that emptiness is not an enemy. It is a sacred space to know yourself. Being alone allows you to listen to yourself, strengthen your mind, and heal your wounds without depending on the comfort of others. The more comfortable you feel with yourself, the less power rejection will have over you, because you no longer seek in others what you can give yourself. Rejection hurts when it takes away your sense of worth. But if you learn not to need approval, the wound stops bleeding so quickly. Those who do not need do not chase. Those who do not chase do not demean themselves. Those who do not demean themselves inspire respect. Emotional independence is not arrogance, it is internal mastery. You become someone who can give without losing themselves, love without begging, and walk away without fear. Not needing also means knowing how to let go of results, not clinging to what does not depend on you. Expectations are traps disguised as hope. The more you expect from others, the more you get disappointed. But when you understand that life owes you nothing, you start to move lightly. You don't need things to turn out perfect, just to be prepared to adapt to whatever comes. True power is born when you discover that you can lose and still remain complete. When there is no fear of abandonment, no manipulation works. No one can make you feel insufficient if you know who you are. That security is not bought, it is built through solitude, silence, and introspection. Learning not to need is an act of emotional maturity, a way of saying, I am fine with myself, and everything else is a compliment, not an obligation. When you reach that point, everything changes. You no longer react to rejection with anxiety, but with serenity. You no longer try to convince anyone, you simply follow your path. Freedom comes when you can be alone and feel at peace. Because whoever learns not to need loses nothing by walking away. They only recover everything they had given without realizing it. And that is the highest form of independence, living without depending, loving without fear, and moving forward without chains. 8. Let your absence speak volumes. Absence, when used wisely, is more powerful than any speech. It's like the shadow left by a fire after it's been extinguished. Its warmth can still be felt, even though it's no longer there. Knowing how to withdraw in silence, without explanations or drama, is a gesture of power that few master. In a world where everyone tries to be seen, the one who learns to disappear with elegance becomes unforgettable. Because absence not only creates distance, it also sparks reflection. When someone rejects or underestimates you, your absence can become the clearest lesson you could leave them. Staying to argue or insisting on being understood only weakens your position. On the other hand, leaving calmly creates a void that weighs more than any word. Not because you seek to manipulate, but because you understand that your energy is not to be given away. Absence teaches what presence can no longer. It is the silent language of self-respect. Absence has a power that many fear because it forces the other to face their own loss. And it also confronts you. It forces you to look inward, to discover who you are without the gaze of others. Not everyone can bear that. Therefore, withdrawing intelligently is not an act of ego, it's an act of self-awareness. It's recognizing that remaining present where you're not valued is a slow way of disappearing from yourself. It's not about disappearing completely, but doing so consciously. Leaving spaces, boundaries, pauses. Well-used absence creates respect. It teaches without saying, corrects without punishing. And while the other tries to understand why you're no longer there, you rebuild yourself in silence. You become stronger, more stable, clearer. Because when you walk away with dignity, you don't lose power, you multiply it. Absence also reveals the truth. If someone forgets you quickly, it wasn't your place. If someone returns, it's because your value became evident in your silence. But the most important thing is that you don't return at the same level you left. Absence is useless if you come back the same. It must transform you, teach you to stand firm, to not chase after what once ignored you. Respect is often earned more with distance than with insistence. Absence makes your boundaries visible. It shows you as someone who doesn't need attention to feel complete. The one who masters their presence knows when to speak, but the one who masters their absence knows when to leave. And that wisdom is worth more than any explanation. When your absence says more than your words, you no longer need to prove anything. Your silence becomes a message, your distance a lesson. And when that happens, you regain your power without having to demand it. Because sometimes the greatest impact is not in what you say, but in the echo you leave, when you decide not to stay where you're no longer heard. 9. Turn pain into power. Pain is like a storm that sweeps away everything that was not firm. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't warn. It simply arrives to test what is really built on solid foundations. Many try to escape from it, hide it, deny it. But pain doesn't disappear because you ignore it. It transforms when you face it. Turning pain into power is not an act of magic, it's a decision. It's looking at what hurt you and telling yourself, this doesn't destroy me, it trains me. Rejection, loss, and disappointment are forms of pain that everyone faces. The difference between those who break and those who strengthen lies in the way they interpret it. Pain has the power to paralyze or propel you, to sink or elevate you. Whoever chooses to learn in the midst of suffering finds a type of strength that is not obtained in comfort. Life will test you over and over again, and each time you endure a wound without giving up, your character will harden like steel that goes through fire. Transforming pain into power means using the wound as a starting point. You don't define yourself by what you lost, but by what you did with what was left. Pain gives you clarity because it breaks illusions and shows what really matters. It forces you to detach from the superficial and to look within yourself. If you listen to it carefully, pain becomes a brutal but fair teacher. It teaches you that strength is not born from pleasure, but from resistance. Many try to heal quickly because they can't stand the discomfort. But growth doesn't occur in a hurry. Pain needs to be felt in order to transform, not to wallow in it, but to understand what part of you needs to change. Denying it is like leaving an open wound under a clean bandage. What is not faced does not heal. When you dare to feel, you stop being a victim and become a creator. Pain also cleanses you. It takes away the unnecessary, separates you from people who didn't value you, frees you from ideas that kept you weak. It shows you that surviving is not luck, it's a skill. And once you learn to live with pain, without it controlling you, nothing and no one can break you the same way again. Each fall becomes training, each rejection a push, each loss a transformation. The key is not to stay in the role of victim. Don't ask, why did this happen to me? Ask, what is this serving me for? That simple difference changes everything. Because pain, when used well, doesn't make you bitter, it makes you wise. It gives you a different calm, a firmer look, a more confident voice. Turning pain into power is the bravest act someone who decided not to give up can have. It's looking back and understanding that what once broke you was exactly what taught you to rebuild yourself stronger. 10. Master your own control. Control is not demonstrated with force, it is demonstrated with calm. It's like holding a glass filled to the brim and walking without spilling a drop. Anyone can seem calm when everything is going well, but only those who have learned to master their inner self can stand firm when everything around them trembles. Mastering your own control is understanding that life is not about controlling the external, but about maintaining balance no matter what happens. People lose control when they try to control what does not depend on them. They get frustrated, they get angry, they argue, they look for answers where there are none. But real control begins when you accept that the world does not revolve according to your desires. You can't control the actions of others, but you can control how you react to them. That's the difference between weakness and strength. The first reacts, the second decides. Mastering yourself is a daily practice. It means not falling into provocations, not responding from the wound, not allowing your emotions to drag you. It's knowing when to speak and when to be silent, when to move forward and when to wait. It's not about repressing yourself, but directing your energy towards what really matters. Every time you choose calm over reaction, you strengthen your character. Every time you choose to observe before acting, you get closer to wisdom. Whoever masters their control does not despair over rejection or get upset by chaos. They understand that the world can move violently, but their center remains intact. That stability projects respect. You don't need to impose it, it's felt. People trust those who don't fall apart under pressure. Because calm is not passivity, it's power in its purest form. When you learn to maintain it, you no longer waste energy trying to change what does not depend on you. Mastering your control also involves not letting yourself be dragged by the need to always be right. The ego is the silent enemy of self-control. It makes you react impulsively, talk too much, justify yourself. But when you learn to let go of the desire to control opinions, you regain freedom. You don't need to convince, just maintain your coherence. Strong people don't shout their truth, they live it. Control is a form of invisible art. It's not noticed in gestures, but in the decisions you make when no one is watching. It's what prevents you from sending that impulsive message, responding with anger, or lowering yourself for attention. It's the inner voice that tells you it's not worth it. When you listen to it, you become the owner of yourself. And whoever owns themselves does not depend. Mastering your own control is the final step towards freedom. It's looking at chaos without losing direction, accepting rejection without losing calm, and moving forward without needing approval. It's the peak of silent power, because when nothing outside of you can take you out of your center, that's when you truly realize that you won the most important battle, the one to master yourself. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment, "I am Stoic," as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.